Alright guys, welcome to a camera comparison with a bit of a twist.
So we've got the Pixel 3 XL, OnePlus 6T and the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, with each of their respective night modes installed.
So we're going to compare the cameras generally at night and then using these night modes, and I think the results are going to surprise you. But right now we're just using the 1080p footage from the front cameras, so let me know which one you think is better in terms of the video and the audio quality. So, although night mode only really comes into play with photos, for most people video quality is just as important, and there are some interesting results. Right off the bat, the OnePlus 6T records 4K video at 60 frames per second, which makes footage look a whole lot smoother, but this reduces the bitrate of video, so for the sake of comparison, all phones are set to 4K 30. And I like the color reproduction on the OnePlus. Video is bold and punchy, but zooming all the way in and problems emerge. Compared to the other two phones, bright areas are not as well controlled, not to mention the more sophisticated denoising algorithms present on the Pixel and the Mate 20 Pro. It's also worth drawing your attention to stabilization, where the OnePlus falls behind a bit. Both the Pixel and the OnePlus 6T combine electronic image stabilization with optical image stabilization, and they are both very good, but the Pixel is just a tiny bit steadier, and the Mate 20 Pro on the far right, using its artificial intelligence stabilization, might just be the best of the bunch. Okay, onto night mode. All three have the potential to be amazing. Night mode can transform a scene from dark and dingy to clean and well lit. But the first thing you might notice is that while the 6T remains sharp, it severely lacks consistency in handling bright areas. Credit where due, it generally makes the whole image brighter than the other two phones, which is a good thing. But when it's at the expense of such exaggerated white areas, in my opinion the overall image suffers. One of the things OnePlus was quite proud of with the 6T is that it can capture a night mode shot in less than 2 seconds, compared to 4 for the Huawei. And while this is true, it doesn't change the fact that photos from this phone are actually more likely to blur moving objects like people and cars. Detail was an area that surprised me, so I went round and took a series of night shots with all phones and then cropped into them 15 times, and while all three phones were pretty impressive, well, the Pixel takes the cake, and it's not even close. Shots just seem to look like they were taken on a much higher resolution camera than with the Huawei and the OnePlus. And at this magnification on the other two, there is obvious noise, and textures have become pretty muddy, but on the Pixel 3, you can even read text, and look at the difference in how evenly this board is exposed across the three. Google has knocked it out the park with its night mode, and amazingly, it's about to get better. You might remember that the Huawei has 3 times optical zoom, and if we use this in night mode and compare it to the single lens Pixel 3 which uses software alone to zoom, the Pixel is actually better. To reiterate, what you're seeing now is a 45 times zoomed in night mode image, and the Pixel 3 XL, which doesn't have a telephoto lens, is still looking sharp. Because the OnePlus 6T doesn't actually let you use the telephoto lens when taking night mode shots, I've just had to crop in afterwards, so it's like a digital zoom. Right, so far it does seem like the OnePlus is getting completely crushed here, but it is worth remembering that number one, the 6T is a much more affordable phone than the other two, and the fact that it's being pitched next to 2 of the best devices in this category. I really like this photo, and I'd say it's pretty indicative of the general outcome of the test. You can see the slightly higher saturation on the Pixel, slightly cooler tones on the Mate 20 Pro, and the overexposure of the OnePlus. One benefit of the Huawei is the ultra-wide lens, and this can dramatically change the way a landscape looks, but just bear in mind that the quality of this lens is not as good as the primary one, so even when you're using night mode, the photos will come out with just that little bit more noise. And one more thing worth testing was photos of people, which is not really something night mode was made for, but if you stand really still, it can come out quite nice on all three. When things get really dark, Google benefits from a faster capture time compared to the Huawei, which gets a little more easily blurred. Its image is also way brighter, but comes at the cost of noise. Funnily enough, if we switch over to the front cameras, there is almost no correlation with results from the rear cameras. Huawei keeps the face tones more realistic, but OnePlus in most cases has the sharpest front camera, both in terms of photos and videos. The one thing that the Google Pixel has though is its wide-angle lens on the front, which results in a much wider field of view, and importantly, unlike the ultra-wide on the back of the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, this results in no noticeable deterioration in quality. Alright, so that's pretty much the comparison, and I'm confident that Nightscape mode will get better on OnePlus phones, just like their electronic image stabilization did. But at the same time, technically their software is in a final form, and Google's is actually the one in beta. So what do you think? Which phone do you think does better, considering the price they are pitched at? Thanks a lot for watching.